Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Susan Cheka-Lusignan, Director of Marketing and Program Development for the Friends and Foundation of the Rochester Public Library. FFRPL raises funds, presents programs, supports special projects, helps to create specialized spaces, and purchases supplemental materials and equipment for the Rochester Public Library. And we welcome you to the final Book Sandwiched In review for fall 2022. Please silence your cell phones at this time. We are live streaming today's event. The video is being broadcast directly to the library's YouTube channel. Masks are recommended but not required in the library at this time. We do have masks on the back table for anyone who wants one. If you are having difficulty hearing at any time through the program, raise your hand. We can adjust the volume. And to access the induction loop in the auditorium, please just set your hearing aid to the T switch. Our thanks go to those who help fund programs like these through FFRPL, the dedicated FFRPL committee members who curate and organize these events, our guest speakers and artists who so graciously share their time and talents with us, the library staff who help with our setup and production, and the thousands of people who attend each year. In addition to presenting in-person programs like today's BSI review, FFRPL is also proud to continue to work with the library on presenting and promoting many online programs. This year, we began partnering with the Rochester Public Library and the Library Speakers Consortium to present RPL online author talks from best-selling authors and thought leaders. Registration information is posted on our website as well as the library's website, ffrpl.org or rockcitylibrary.org. The talks are free and you can participate and ask the author questions in real time during the online event, or you can access the archive talks at your convenience. On December 6th, RPL will present an online author talk with Geraldine Brooks, Pulitzer Prize-winning author of March, People of the Book, and The Secret Chord, and her most recent book title is Horse. We also invite you to come to FFRPL's Seasons Reading Sale in this building, just in front of the library store, from November 28th through December 6th. We'll have many like-new books, including specialty pop-up books, as well as games, puzzles, CDs, and DVDs for your holiday shopping. And lastly, we hope you'll consider supporting FFRPL next Tuesday, November 29th, for Rock the Day, the 24-hour annual online giving event powered by the United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes. This year, FFRPL will be raising money for upgrades for this auditorium, including new, multifunctional, accessible, and comfortable furniture. In addition to being our home for Books Sandwiched In, this room, the Kate Gleason Auditorium, is also Central Library's most used event space. The auditorium is used by the Rochester Public Library on a daily basis, offering diverse programming throughout the year to thousands of patrons of all backgrounds and interests. For more information and the link to donate next Tuesday, please visit ffrpl.org, and we thank you in advance for your consideration. Today's Book Sandwiched In review is of The Most Fun Thing, Dispatches from a Skateboard Life by Kyle Beachy. Kyle Beachy's memoir and essays follows his decade-long quest to uncover the hidden meaning of skateboarding, and he explores how this search led unexpectedly to insights on marriage, love, loss, American invention, and growing old. Our reviewer is Jim Madison, the former Grants Development Manager at Coordinated Care Services, Incorporated. Madison was founder and president of the board for the Friends of the Rock City Skate Park, Inc. for about 13 years until the 26,000 square foot skate park was completed in late 2020. And the park is just off of South Avenue, south of the Nathaniel Building, and 1 block south of the Rundell Library Building. Please join me in welcoming Jim Madison to our podium. Thank you.
So, February 9th, 2008, not that I'm keeping track, I made a mistake. And I walked into City Hall and asked, why don't we have a skate park here in Rochester? I have 4 kids. At the time, they were all loosely involved with skateboarding. And what ensued from that initial meeting was 12 years of volunteer activity, and a lot of hard work, literally some blood, sweat, and tears, trying to get a skate park built in Rochester, which at the time was the last city among the largest 150 in the country to get a public skate park. So we were long past due. The city had made skateboarding illegal in 1986. And I gave a TED Talk actually back in 2011 where I show the news clip of, it's really pretty hurtful actually. They vilify our children talking about these, all these kids coming downtown and how horrible this could be for downtown. And I get it, you know, the infrastructure of the city is not built for skateboarders and they shouldn't be skateboarding. But at a certain point, didn't somebody stop to think, yeah, what about the kids? You know, the most injuries, especially the catastrophic ones and that result in death, happen when we don't have a skate park and a safe place for kids to go skateboard. I do not skateboard, never have, probably never will. I just turned 50 this summer, and it's so hard. I don't know how people do it. I stuck with it for that long because I feel good about this one. I told my kids I would get a skate park built. And credibility for me with everybody, and especially with my children, is extremely important. You know, I think it helps decrease their anxiety, and they know that when Dad says something, you know, he's going to get it done. Should have qualified it. Should have said, like, I'll try, you know, for 5 years or something like that. But that was an interesting experience, and I do hope to write my memoirs about it at some point. The book, the most fun thing, which I want to get into, is I enjoyed it. Did people read it? I'm just a little curious. Yeah, okay. I enjoyed it and got a lot out of it, but I think that's because I have some content knowledge going into the book. He definitely makes a contribution, but he was a creative writing professor, and it's written like a creative writing professor. He waxes poetic throughout it, and it's longer than I think it needs to be. But the point that he's getting at is that skateboarding, and I'm pausing because I want to make sure, we talk about at the Friends of the Rock City Skate Park progression-oriented sports because we felt it was easier to sell that than extreme sports or anything like that. So progression-oriented sports are any of those sports that, you know, progression for the individual and in the sport is the most important thing. Getting the next trick, you know, hitting the next trick, all the way from the little kids just trying to do their first trick all the way up onto the pros. Progression is the most important aspect of the sport. And as I talk about this, I want to make some parallels. I'm fortunate enough, you know, I have 4 children. One was a very hardcore baseball player, played in college, he's much bigger than me, he's some God-given ability to throw a baseball 90 miles an hour. Don't know where that came from. I have a candy arm. And my second son, he's now 25. My second son, Harry, is 18, and he's my skater. He actually scooters. So the progression-oriented sports are, you know, the bicycles, BMX. I list that one first because there is a little bit of a hierarchy. Those guys are nuts. You got to be out of your mind. If you haven't been to the skate park, I would encourage you to go over there and stand just on the lip of what they call the bowl. It's a 14-foot drop, and it's not just straight down. It actually goes a little concave. You know, you've got to be out of your mind to do that. And, you know, my son does it like it's nothing. But, yeah, then skateboarding. And then scooter, that's what my son does. That's kind of seeing a moment right now. And then there's probably rollerblading, which we all know was really big in, you know, the 90s. That's not having so much of a moment now, but that'll come back around. But throughout all of it has been skateboarding since probably the 70s, West Coast in California. And like you said in the introduction, skateboarding is an interesting moment right now. It's not even really defined. You know, is it art? Is it a sport? Is it a hobby? Most people grow up with it, and you know now we have people my age who are lawyers and corporate CEOs who still skateboard. Teachers, principals, administrators who still skateboard. It's a healthy, fun, family-oriented activity. And even they would say, we're not even really, you know, it's kind of a sport, and there's a lot of momentum pushing it that way, and there are a lot of people struggling with that because it's more of a lifestyle. It's more of a way of being. It's who they are. You know, a lot of these corporate CEOs and teachers and lawyers and stuff, when pushed, they might first say, you know, I'm a skateboarder and a lawyer. You know, it's been such an important part of who they are. And there are some. I just want to read one. He says, I mean that to know skateboarding is to know more completely the rigors, rewards, and negotiations of being human. That might come across as a little hyperbolic, but I noticed this early on. When I decided I was going to try to get a skate park built in the city, I met with Aaron Costa. Now, Aaron owns Crudco, which is the skateboard shop on Mount Hope, and a little bit of trivia. It's the oldest skate shop in New York State. And just like the sport is in a really interesting time right now, or the activity or the lifestyle, is at a really interesting potential transition point. There's a real push and pull between, you know, big marketing, huge companies, Nike. There's a store called Zoomies that's in malls across the country, and these small independent skate shops. That will hopefully survive, and we've got a good one here. The other thing about Rochester that you might not know of is a BMX company called Kink. You familiar with Kink BMX at all? These are bikes that are top-notch, top in the world. If you ever tune into ESPN X Games or whatever, you'll probably see more than a couple of Kink BMX bikes made right here in Rochester by a kid that graduated from School of the Arts. And in 2014, he won the National Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. So we have a bit of a history, despite not having a skate park all those years. The city was our skate park, and we have a bit of a storied history here in at least for a small, you know, Rust Belt city in upstate New York. We couldn't claim to be Tampa or LA or anything like that. So skateboarding was in the last Olympics, and what Kyle laments about a little in his, he's kind of an older hardcore skater. You know, there's some people who really firmly believe that that's not what skateboarding is about. You know, it's more about the individual and the progression in the sport or the hobby or the lifestyle or the activity. And like I said, my oldest son is a baseball player, and I can see where he's coming from because adults have completely ruined baseball. Completely ruined baseball. The skate park is one of the last places you can go to and just let the kids play. Just let them play. And there'll be boys, girls, black, white, Hispanic, all different races, nationalities. There's an organization here called Skateistan, which teaches immigrant children they get them a skateboard, and it's been nationally recognized as well. When my oldest son was playing baseball, and this is how quickly it happened. I want to say it was about 2014. he finally got to the point where he was invited to play on an American Legion team. So in 2013, that was a big deal because as a parent, you don't have to pay. So the way American Legion was set up was that the Legion post paid for the uniforms, it was wooden bat, paid for everything, and that was the first time as a parent you didn't have to fork over hundreds of dollars for your son or daughter to play baseball. 2014, American Legion was pretty much dead. That was the first and only year my son had an opportunity to play baseball because the private sector came in and convinced everybody that paying $3,000 for the summer of baseball tournaments was better than this old piece of Americana, American Legion baseball, where the veterans would cover it and the veterans would come to games, and it was, like I said, a little piece of the old Americana. And a lot of people are nervous about that and it was literally a year. In 2013, my nephew played for American Legion. It was the biggest thing going. And 2014, it was just gone. It was done. It was the last season. They had trouble finding teams to play. And then after that, we were in a situation where the marketing worked and all these private sector, and we forked over $3,000 for a summer of baseball as opposed to nothing. I don't think it was better. In fact, my son went on to college and played for a year because he was completely fed up, just so sick of baseball. So when BMX hit the Olympics, a couple of Olympics ago, it was just like any other sport where people all of a sudden had private kids, all of a sudden had private coaches and nutritionists, and it really became exclusive and a sport for the wealthy. As opposed to, skateboarding. You could go to Crudco right now and he'll put you all padded up in a new skateboard for less than $100. So the activity, the lifestyle, the sport, the hobby, the art form, whatever you want to call it, really is at an interesting place right now. And the author does say, and I hope he's right, his thesis of the book, I would argue, is that skateboarding is going to be okay. That was the exact, real simple sentence. Skateboarding is going to be okay, one way or the other. And another quote, the new beautiful freaks will teach us how to play again. And my son has purple hair, but God, he's a great kid, That's how he expresses himself. Among those who are most invested in the activity, there is scant agreement about how skateboarding should be classified. Is it a sport or is it a hobby? And he goes on in this chapter to talk about how the $2.5 billion industry, and he describes it as the nausea, though, can be debilitating. Suddenly we had celebrity crossovers and MTV specials. We watched the death of unspoken traditions, values, and codes, and saw the rise of competitors with workout regimens and Olympic ambitions. So, see what I'm getting at? I don't know if you've experienced this with your children in sports, but it is really refreshing to go over to the skate park. Just let the kids play. And it isn't 26,000 feet yet. We were able to get the first part of the skate park built. It's half as big as this guy. It's about 14,000 square feet right now. And proof of concept, it's, I hear everybody from the mayor to, heck, Bob Lonsberry talking about what a successful capital improvement project it was. And it was $3.6 million, which sounds like a big number, but if you look into other capital expenditure projects, the promenade right by the Dinosaur Barbecue there, that's a sidewalk. They call it a promenade. That was a $7 million project. So, we were forced into a situation. Again, this was our children, by and large, where we had to raise a lot of the money ourselves. And we did. If you're looking to raise money, I highly recommend having a billionaire on your board. And we had Mackenzie Sands on the board, and they were very helpful in getting the money raised. But most of it came from the state, Rock the Riverway funding. I know that's still going on. And in 2020, after it opened, I was so exhausted and had left so much of myself into this project, I had to step away. They got 12 years. That's a lot of skin out of one guy. And fortunately, we found a new president, and 90% of nonprofits aren't going to survive 5 years. And the Friends of the Rock City Skate Park is still going. And one of the happiest moments I had was actually not getting it built. And actually, the mayor, Warren, let me cut the ribbon. I was really honored by that. It's proof that I was instrumental in getting it built. And a lot of people claim to be, because a lot of people were. And it always feels good that ownership of that skate park is on the whole community, which is why 2 years later, there's no graffiti. There's no drug paraphernalia just hanging around. The kids clean it up. The kids take care of it. And that's not really a crew you want to mess with. Recently in the fall, there was, and I didn't encourage this, but I guess somebody tried to hold up a skater at knife point. Did you hear about this? And got away. So the skaters gave chase and cornered this guy. You don't want to mess with the skaters too much. And if anybody's going to go toe-to-toe, and again, I don't encourage that, but, maybe it was good. Message got out. This is not a group of people. This is our skate park. We're going to take pride in it. So there is a silver lining to the project taking 12 years. Everybody had some input. Everybody really feels a lot of ownership over it. And I think another 12 years from now, the skate park is going to be even bigger, twice as big as it is now, and still immaculate, I hope. And our goal was never a skate park. We just used the flagship skate park, we call it. There's different levels of skate parks. Flagship is like the one in Rochester, is about, in the city now, about 30,000 square feet. Our mission was to get a system of skate parks built around the city. And we didn't want to just focus on a small one, because our fear was, well, there is your skate park. The idea is to have one big flagship skate park, which is what we have now. And then what they call neighborhood level skate parks, a little smaller. And then just safe skate spots. And we're working on that. It's still a little hard to convince. Like when the city takes on a capital project, a lot of times there's surplus materials that can easily be put into just building a little spot for kids to skate. There's one more quote that I really appreciated in this book. Because many of us are assholes, and because our passion of choice lacks, thank God, any clear established standards of value, even the briefest moments of agreement between skateboarders can feel like small miracles. So you can feel him talking about this kind of healthy conflict about what the sport should become, or the hobby. Should it go on to the Olympics and get a little more exclusive? Or is it going to be okay, to kind of do both things? Another story I want to share, about how we've ruined baseball is, when I was a kid, I remember going and playing baseball with my friends, and we would get a bunch of heads together. We would break up teams, right? We would put our gloves in a big pile and, do this, and then the thing to see who goes for it, right? Whoever gets on top. So when I was coaching baseball at the Little League age, which ends at 13, I wanted to just do like a Sunday sandlot baseball and have the kids go play baseball just together, and I would just be there as an adult, because, I don't know, that has to happen now too. Like when I was a kid, Mom had no idea where, where I was. And the kids had no idea what to do. Like, they just kept looking at me, and I said, figure it out, break up into teams and figure it out. Honest to God, and these were smart kids. And my son went to Aquinas and on to college. No idea. No idea what to do. That doesn't happen at the skate park, and I do think it's one of the last places for us to hold on to where children can just really be children and go play, and you get a mix of organic relationships with people of different races, different genders, different economic classes. On the other hand, there are people that do have Olympic ambitions. So what I'm hoping is that somehow both can be maintained. I don't know. I fear what adults do to things, But we'll see. And if we go with the author here, this very simply says skateboarding is going to be okay. And for all of us, I really hope it is, and it maintains some of that organic, So that's the. Are there any questions or comments about or more? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's outdoor. And in 2011, I gave a TED talk, on why we needed a skate park, and I opened it by quoting the, TEDx. Their tagline is "Ideas worth spreading," and I said, I don't know why I'm here. This idea has been spread. In fact, in summer of 2011, New York City opened 2 brand new skate parks, and part of our issue, I think, in fairness, with the 12 years is that we went through a lot of administrations in that time, and there's no institutional memory in City Hall. So we had a general rule that when a new mayor came in, we were pretty low on their priority list, so we would wait 6 months and then try to get a meeting with them. And it's just a park. In fairness to you, I understand I didn't get it at first either, and I wasn't a skater, but it's really no different than Highland Park. It's outside. The city did make it a little different, and we were frustrated. After it was built, they put up this big fencing, and then, again, we're lucky in the sense that we have such a great skate park that they actually put the stadium lighting in. But then the first summer, they were closing it at 10. We're like, 10? These kids are just waking up. So yeah, it's under the Freddie Sue Bridge, which is where we always wanted it. Under a bridge, especially in this climate, is a great location. It's an iconic, image of Rochester. And we want to do, actually, we're still talking about doing a release of skateboard decks celebrating Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, and we've partnered with Susan B. Anthony on how those are coming together. But those will have probably a national draw, and that's another place where, if it's a slow news cycle, we might even get some national news, on Rochester about something like that. And we also, we really had to work hard for this and triangulate an argument. A lot of people, there's this impression that it's much more dangerous than it really is. Most accidents happen to first-timers. You don't realize how fast the board goes or something. You fall and break a wrist or hurt yourself or something like that. But I promise you, if you go over to that skate park and you just look into that 14-foot bowl, you're not about, it's years before, you're brave enough to try something like that. So it's actually less dangerous than, football. It's actually less dangerous, fewer injuries than basketball, lacrosse, hockey. So, we really encourage the helmet laws. If you're under 14, I think the state law is you have to wear a helmet, but we keep it optional, and actually the lawyers explained to us that the more, the stricter you make those rules, the more liability you open yourself up to, so the sign just says you're skating at your own risk. There's never been a successful lawsuit anywhere against either a private or a public skate park. We do have one privately held indoor skate park in the city called Breaking Free. It's over on University Avenue. And he was actually on our board, which the news, I share that because once the news did a story, and they had to take a negative spin on it. There's only one skate park in the city of Rochester, but if the Friends of the Rock City Skate Park have their way, it's going to be shut down. Well, no, he's on the board too, and his idea, the more people participating in these sports, the better he's going to be too. It's just more people. So I really hope you get over there, to take a look at it. It's, we presented to the Rochester Downtown Development Corporation, and one of the developers said, my wife and I just got back from London, and we probably spent an extra few hours downtown by the skate park having a cup of coffee just because it's something to look at, And a lot of people do consider skating an art form. And I love it there. It's kind of a hip urban scene, and wholesome, more wholesome, I think, than you think. Sorry, go ahead.
So I know where it is, but I don't know how to get to it.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a trick. And I can share with you, this will make a lot of sense about me, the type of relationship I have with my father. At the ribbon cutting, he comes after this 12 years of effort. My dad, the Cornell grad and college professor, said, not hello or congratulations. Jesus, Jim, how are kids going to get across the street safely? The best thing to do is actually, we have 100 spots reserved for the skate park at the Spectrum Cable building, which seems counterintuitive, but if you park in there, it's right there. Does that make sense?
And how far a walk is it?
Well, soon, hopefully by next summer or the summer after that, it's going to be literally adjacent to it. There will be a north and a south entrance. But if you get off, if you park in sort of the back spots to that parking lot, it's way closer than, it's 200 feet maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
To get on the 490, and as you go up the ramp, you can see it
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does, it adds, a lot. And like I said, one of my favorite moments was this fall when I heard on the radio, they were just listing events that were happening in the fall, and they listed an event going on at the skate park like it was just part of our culture already, and that felt good to me, that wasn't some crazy story about trying to get this, and people have to, there always has to be people hating on, trying to do anything, but this was just as a matter of fact, there's this event, it's at the skate park, and I thought, wow, all right, it's already embedded part of our community. And there's some economic development utility that's pretty real and pretty robust. I mean, people definitely travel. I mean, we have, it's way nicer than what exists in Buffalo or Syracuse. And so those two cities definitely drive. But there's actually a core group from Philadelphia that come up to hit our skate park up a lot. And it's going to double in size. And, we did a study on that. You can sort of, they have figures that you can plug in. Like if you get X many visitors, and they're from out of town, they'll spend this much. And it was noteworthy, it was noteworthy. So, yes, sir. If you go there in the dead of winter, say we got 77 inches like Buffalo just did, somebody will be there shoveling it. And then you've got under the bridge, too. The section under the bridge is actually, it's going to be named after Keir Matthews, who was a young boy who died skateboarding. He was hit by a car. And his mother works for Sage Ruddy, and they helped us raise a lot of money for it. And it's going to be called the Keir Matthews Skate Plaza. it's underneath. Skate parks also, they're either park style or street style. This is big enough that we're mixing, so a park style would be like a bowl and stuff, and a street style just tries to emulate the street, you know, things, benches and stuff. So ours is actually big enough that we're able to incorporate both styles. So that, the street style section is going to be the Akir Matthews Street Plaza. So. I think this, we talked the city into closing it at 11 in the summer, but it's, I think, like most parks, it's a dawn to dusk thing, but the stadium lighting is there, and it also feels good because every time I drive past it, there are people there. Every time, and it can be any time of the day, you know. So I feel good about that, you know. So. Anybody else? I'll pull a name, yeah. So now, hopefully, you have a little bit of the content knowledge that might go into. Yeah. I don't. The city might have that. You know, I have a doctorate, and I asked, you know, how do you measure that? And there are ways. There's a survey going on right now, actually, that somebody else is paying for to try to get at that number, and then I think it's part of the design work into the next one. But yeah, I don't know. It's more than the baseball field, you know.